Good morning, Service Lines community. How y'all doing today? Miss Ward, what's up? How you doing, Miss Ward?
I'm doing phenomenal, man. Phenomenal.
Good to be here with you today. You're on the road, you're working, being consistent.
Yeah. I got a weekend run over here. I'm in a place called Lake City. I gotta go down to middle Florida, knock out some stuff, and then get back over to the Panhandle.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll be heading out on a build as soon as we get off. Running out the door, get some plywood, and I'm off on a siding build today. And yeah, it's good stuff. We're talking about consistency today, and then whatever else you guys bring to us. But consistency versus horsepower. It's easier to be consistent, little chunk at a time, than it is to just like, I'm going to sprint at this and I'm going to do all these things. And then I'm just going to slack off for a while. And then, I'm going to hurry up and do it. No, it's just easier to just stay steady, be consistent. I took Salesman of the Month for July, $220,000. Just consistent, steady as a rock. A lot of these guys, they come out the gate and they're like, I got all these jobs. Woo. I just slow and steady. Just keep it consistent. It's so much easier than working harder, right?
Yep, exactly.
Good morning, Gary. Good morning, Adam. Good morning, Jeremy. How you all doing today? Miss Ward, you want to pray us up and we
Sure,
will kick this thing off.
sure. Lord, thank you for allowing us to rise this morning. Lord, thank you for giving us opportunity everywhere we turn. Lord, thank you for giving us essential businesses, essential opportunities, essential careers. Lord, give us the ability to share with our viewers something they can take away to help them work smarter, not harder. To understand that consistency in everything in life is the true key. Slow but steady steps, one foot in front of the other. Lord, please order our steps and clear our minds. Help us to enjoy our weekends and our days to come. Amen.
Amen. Yeah, Doug tends to go in like big spurts and then backs off a bit. Sorry, brother. We all have those tendencies. We can all slip into those modes, right? And so it's just a focus on consistency. It's a focus on how do we maintain and kind of stay steady as we go. So what have been some of your strategies in your consistency, Miss Ward?
Well, people always talk about the rinse repeat method, but it's so true. I think when you find things that work and you put measurements in place, you know where to focus. Like I was just talking to one of my roundtable members, and he was gun ho about something. And when he gathered the data, because he was so hyped about the idea and executing, once he gathered the data, it was a sobering experience. You know what I mean? But at least he was smart enough to gather the data before he went too far off the course. But I mean, in business, you got to try things, but you got to have measurements in place. Like we all got our go tos, things that we know is going to be a solid foundation we're going to continuously eat on. Now, as those things in that terrain changes, I think it's important for you to be open minded, but to be clear what the original goal is. And that's where those measurement sticks come in place. There are certain things, certain clientele, certain appliances, certain areas in the appliance industry that you can eat well. But you also know your skill set has to continue to elevate, which is why you hear me always say, train, train, train. You don't know everything, and always be open to learn. I think all those things have really helped me as being open minded, having a circle of people that I communicate with that are always next level. No matter, I mean, look at you. You're talking 220 in my brain. Next month, this dude will be about 300. He gonna get to the point where he's almost at a 500,000 a month. Because we had a conversation off line in the very beginning about 8 million and things like that, because I know, and that's another thing I want to talk about. We really need to talk about who you're talking to.
Mm.
You have no idea how many people talk to me, and it is basically my job to pump them up because everyone around the world is telling them what they can't do and all the restrictions. That goes back to your toolbox. If you don't have a person or people in your life who are supportive of what you're doing and where you're going consistently, I mean, I watch so many people get drained just by having conversations. And I'm not going to say negative. I'm just going to say some people have limited views. That's all they know. And that's their comfort zone. Leave them there. For you to be consistent and successful in anything you do, you have to continue to level up and be around people who level up and be happy and celebrate their victories. Because guess what? That's a closer step for you. That's one thing I ain't got to learn because I got an expert right here at my table.
100%. And I just had that conversation with my plumber yesterday, and we were talking about, let's see if it'll actually show up. There we go. Tim Grover, good to great to unstoppable, right? So he's talking about Michael Jordan and Kobe and all these guys that just, I mean, we consider them the top of the game, right? When we're talking about basketball. And what drove them? I mean, they were consistent in what they did. It wasn't just like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to be great tonight, and tomorrow, maybe I'll just kind of, phone it in or whatever. No, these guys came with that energy all the time, and they put people around them. The reason they worked with Tim Grover is because he was like, I'm not taking your excuses. You're going to do it or you're not going to do it. And not going to work with you. Like it. And so when you have that inner circle around you of people that are chasing this greatness, are chasing that, I want to be the best at what I am doing. Right. And I think so many of us, and I'm speaking from experience in the appliance world, we get sidetracked. Oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to add duct cleaning, and I'm going to add commercial appliances, and I'm going to add this. But we don't have logical steps in how we're doing it. We just kind of shotgun blast them out there. And so there's no consistency in it. It's a burst of energy. Okay, I'm going to go do commercial. Well, that didn't work out. I didn't, that I couldn't figure that one out. I'm going to go do duct cleaning. Well, that kind of didn't work out. Maybe I'm going to go do sealed systems. Oh, maybe I'm going to go sell appliances. Maybe I'm going to. Any of this sounding familiar to you guys in the audience? Or am I the only one who had these moments where I just kind of shotgun blasted it, right? It's what I'm talking about. If you take the logical plan, you keep the goal in mind, and you consistently build into it. Okay, maybe I'll start with one restaurant. Let's see how that goes. All right, cool. Here's the data that I got from that. All right, let's add a second one. Let's kind of see how this is going to go with commercial. Okay, cool. Now let's add maybe 5, right? And you consistently build upon the foundation that you have. It works a lot better than I'm going all in on commercial. I'm going to be, and then you lose the other pieces of what you were doing. It's much easier to be consistent than not, right? So what else?
Very
What else
true.
helps us stay consistent, Miss Ward?
Well, I think that I think that a lot of people who get into the appliance repair in this business, they are starters to a certain extent. They're self-driven, but a lot of them don't have the discipline. And the reason, and that's not me necessarily saying anything negative. I just want to really preface this by saying, if you get up every day and grind, and you used to go in and get in your bag, you feel me? And by any means necessary, you're going to do it to anything you do. But the key is when you put systems in place to do it consistently. And I think because in the very beginning, people get in, they're excited and they're making this money. They're really not paying attention to the things that matter because, first of all, you're trying to get out of debt. Why did you get into appliance repair? You're trying to get out of debt, get your income right, get right side up. Now, once all that stuff happens, if you maintain, then you got to mature as a business owner and see where your weak points are and then address them head on. You know where your weaknesses are. You know if you can manage that money the right way. You know if you, what's the word? When they merge funds, you're not supposed to
Mm-hmm.
do with art.
Mix their
That's
money.
all that
Yeah.
stuff that ain't you think ain't nobody paying attention. I mean, there's a reason why they own Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, all
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. You know, we all getting those notifications. At the end of the day, you got to figure out what type of business owner you want to be and what type and how much headache and drama you want to create. Because you know my favorite phrase, self-induced adversity. You going into jobs, you're having the same issue over and over again. You're messing up your accounts with these vendors who are giving you this X amount of. Come on, let's just grow up now. Put your big girl drawers on and your big boy briefs on. Because the reality is, this real business ownership is running into issues where you have to level up intellectually, have and develop your emotional IQ because you're dealing with people who are going to help your business. You can't talk to the people at the parts house anyway, kind of way. You might not like certain people, but you got to develop those relationships to grow and nurture your business because you're not where you want to be and you're not where you could be because you are in the way. So you got to look at your personality. Like me, I'm rough around the edges, but people who know me, my bark is bigger than my bite. And I'm that way to keep people away from me because I'm a big softie, you know? But the reality is that this is how I have been able to survive in very harsh environments that I wasn't necessarily invited and welcomed into, but I just walked my ass in anyway. The reality is I know what Miss Ward has to do to go to certain levels. And I know if I want to have consistent, not just income, but relationships and able to walk into rooms that if you don't have a relationship you don't get into, it's a whole nother level. And I think that is so key for people in the appliance repair industry because it's low barrier to entry right now in some areas, but that is going to change. And when you see all these, like for instance, I was looking at some of the requirements to get in with some of the different manufacturers. Remember in the beginning where there was some warranty company that people would go work for and some people couldn't get in because they didn't want to pay the higher insurance. They didn't want to pay for the endorsers. Do people not understand that is a weeding out process?
Mm-hmm.
When you see restrictions go up, these are weeding out processes to keep out the riffraff. So when I hear people complain, I can't. Let me tell you something. I'm in Florida. Don't complain to me about insurance rates for business, for houses, for flood insurance, for come on. The reality is you got to pay to play. But then that means you got to develop a business that can actually pay for the cost of doing business. You got to have low overhead, but then you got to make sure you're getting your investments are going in the right place. Prime example, and I'm gonna just give you a quick example. I was talking to Sam, one of my coaching students we've interviewed here, and he's going balls to the walls. He's with True and several commercial companies, and he was just talking about how he went into this select place in DC because he's in the Maryland area, and how he went in to look at a True refrigeration unit, but they had a Champion dishwasher and some other commercial things, and the maintenance guys were like, "Yeah, we really need you to do X, Y, and Z because these guys around here they don't have the COI." They don't have the insurance to work in these level buildings. Many years ago, you look on my channel, one of the biggest things you used to hear me talk about was the kind of insurance, because I'm working in high rises in Miami. They're not going to let you work if you don't have it, but that's the cost of doing business. And it allows you to get in certain rooms. That's just an example.
Well, and I think, one of the other pieces that you were talking about in there d- goes back and applies, right? Like, so um who's pushing you, right? Like who is coaching you, who's in your corner, who's surrounding you, because it's uncomfortable sometimes, right? Like you need that feedback, like, oh man, they want this type of insurance and I don't have that. No. Are you surrounding yourself with people that are like, oh, well, that's okay, maybe you can go and do this? Are you surrounded with people, man up, Like, get over yourself. That's the cost of doing business. Do you really want this thing? Yes or no? They're gonna push you to your limit, and then when that limit becomes your baseline, then they're gonna push you again. And you should push yourself to an extent, right? But again, when we're talking consistency, that baseline is continually slowly stepping up, right? It's not like we're not trying to rocket. We're just consistently taking the steps to get to these next levels. And it's a lot easier than just trying to brute force it. And if we have people around us that kind of can rein us in, okay, wait, hold on. Hold on. I get that you want to do that, but you're forgetting all these other steps to it. Let's make sure we got this firmed up, and then yeah, let's rock and roll into this next piece of business, right? So making sure that you have that kind of consistent feedback around you. If you consistently have people that let you pull off the gas, that let you get away with things, that listen to your excuses, you're not going to grow. You need to get some people around you that are going to push you, that are going to challenge you. Because the reality is sometimes we can't challenge ourselves, right? I'm going through a bit of a funk right now. It's hard for me to want to get out there and push. But I have people in my life that go, suck it up, dude. Like, here's where you are. Here's where you want to be. Here's the things that we see. Like, what are you doing? It's going to be uncomfortable. Get up. Like, just do it, you know? And so then you have people challenging you to stay consistent in what you're doing. And I think that's so important. I think so many of us get used to the comfort zones. We get used to this level. You know, here's the other thing, and why consistency works. It gives our brains time, right? Those of you who, and I know I'm on with a lot of your people here, Miss Ward, your channel. Those of you who know me know that I love the study of the brain. Our brains cannot go somewhere that they haven't been before. That's why goals are so important, and that's why living out that reality and mental mapping the way to that goal is so important, because once our brain has been there, then everything else can follow. But the reality is, if you haven't been to a level of income before, right, your brain freaks out. Your brain just loses it and is like, hold on. I'm not, nope.
What's
This ain't
happening?
where I'm supposed to be. Right. But if you're
Amen.
doing it consistently, it's like warming up the pot on a frog, right? Like you throw the frog in the cold water and you just slowly raise that temperature, and soon that frog's boiling and it doesn't even know what happened. You got to do that to your brain. So if you're trying to go up, being consistent and just doing these incremental increases over time, right? It warms your brain up slowly to the point that it's like, all right, I just went from making $80,000 to like $200,000. What? Holy crap! How did I get here? Right? Your brain had the time to acclimate by doing the consistent things. So each level that you got to, okay, this isn't scary. This isn't bad, right? Because our brains are still programmed for fight or flight. We're years past the evolution of having to fight bears for our food, right? But our brains still aren't. They're still hardwired that way, and so we have to understand that about ourselves and be able to take the steps logically that work on the fight or flight, that work on the survival mode, right? Like we still have to do those things. And if you
Sure.
understand that, game changer. Total game changer.
Absolutely.
Very true. I remember visions I had while studying programming and languages in order to get into tech. Fast forward 3 years and I'm living what I dreamed. And it's right. So when we're talking about dreams, like if that dream is so far astronomical, that's awesome. but you have to work backwards in those same dreams to go, okay, well, now how did I get here? Okay, well, I took this step and I also took this step, and you're going backwards so that your brain is like, okay, cool. This is not really that scary. Yeah, I know that's way out there, but I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about this next little step and then this next little step and this next little step, right? If we continually do that, then our brains get accustomed to it and we are able to actually achieve this next level of success. Listen, you're not going to go from $80,000 to a millionaire. It's just not going to happen. Not overnight. You have to slowly acclimate to it. Think of the lottery winners, right? Why do they end up back where they were or worse? Because their brains weren't ready to handle that level of money, because they went from one thing to the other thing and their brain never had time to catch up with what was actually happening. And they went, whoa, fight or flight. I got to do all this stuff. And then all of a sudden they have no money left because they couldn't catch up to the reality of it. You know what I mean? So
Facts.
grit does prevail. Grit, little bit at a time, little bit of consistency, little bit of hard work every single day. And you're going to end up where you never thought you could be. It's a pretty awesome thing. What else, Miss Ward? What are these other ways that you're getting to these next levels?
Well, the thing is, I've been thinking, and this has been in my back of my mind the whole time. Two things happen at appliance repair. Because the work can become monotonous when you stay on certain levels, you get bored with it. So I think it's always important to stay challenged. That's why I'm always big about learning and training and realizing the transferable skills you have in appliance repair. But the other thing I think is so important that so many people miss is don't be afraid to leave the table. When the table no longer serves you, you owe nobody, you don't owe anybody anything. If you are a great contributor to that arena and that group of people, and you wasn't shady and all that stuff, and you did what you needed to do, but people are, they're okay where they are, don't be afraid to excuse yourself from the table and continue to level and go where you are inspired. Celebrate it, not tolerate it. That is my trade, where I will get up and go and say nothing because there's nothing to be said. I left it on the field. I wish you the best, but this is not for my palate anymore. You follow me? And I think that in our humanity, we always want to bring everybody with us, but everybody ain't built to go.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get you in order and everything. And then when it shows up, when opportunities show up that you're not comfortable with, don't immediately reject them. Understand why they showed up. Like, I had an interesting conversation yesterday. A young lady called me, and I had declined this before, because I just didn't want to walk into that arena. But I had to respect the game and I had to respect her approach. And it made me actually think about it and look into it because I deal with high-end clientele. A lot of time I'm approached to do some projects in places like that I'm just not interested in being in. And it's not that I'm intimidated, because I already been there before, like in my life and dealing with those things. But at the same time, I'm at a point in my life where my personality puts me in arenas that my body and my person don't necessarily want to be. Like, people think that I'm very social and outgoing, and I'm really not. I'm really an introvert, but my personality and the fact that I've had to have be a certain way in a certain arena for so many years, it's like a switch. It just comes on when it's time for me to go to work. But then when these cameras go off and I'm focused and I'm like, okay, what do I need to do next? What did I jack up yesterday? Why am I trifling? Why do I keep eating these donuts and then I want to go to the gym? Like, in my mind, I got this whole logical thing. Okay, I'm gonna have a Snickers. That just means extra time in the gym. We all know abs are made in the kitchen, but that's a different conversation. So what I'm saying is, guys, you got to understand, don't be afraid to leave the table. Love yourself unconditionally, but continue to grow. and don't have that remorse that your butt have when you, because guess what's gonna happen is everybody gonna still be looking for you. You just gotta learn how to love them at a distance. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But continue to grow and invest in yourself, and it's okay to want more and deserve more because you are a full-time job.
I put a lot of people at distance, right? Like, and if we go back to my business, and not all of you have heard my full story, but we go back to my business, I held on to people for far too long because I felt like they needed to come with me when I should have let go, right? And that speaks to firing people at the appropriate time. That speaks to moving to these next levels at the appropriate time. Um, but I was so stuck at, I got to take everyone with me. I got to do this, and I held on too long. The danger in holding on too long is you will go backwards. You will fail. Hear that again. You will fail if you hold on too long. I'm not saying it to be a jerk. I'm saying it because I know it. I'm saying it because I lived it. I left the flooring because I learned the lesson. I learned that the people that I was around were not ready to go to the next level. And if I didn't leave, it was going to destroy me. It was going to cause me to fail. It was going to cause me to go backwards. And I did slide backwards a little bit, but not as far as I would have. So once I recognized they ain't meant to come with me, it's time to move on, I moved on. So you got to hold on tight, but you got to hold on loose. It's this interesting dichotomy. Like you got to grip on because it's like, all right, I'm on this ride and I'm going to do this thing. But when you get to the peak, you got to know it's time to let go so that you can jump, right? Like you have to be ready to let go when it's time to let go. And it takes some lumps to kind of learn the timing of that, right? But if we're paying attention, if we're being consistent in tracking our goals and measuring these levels, right? If we're being consistent in all of that, if we're consistent in our training, we're consistent in learning, we're going to get there. We're going to learn that timing. We'll take some hits along the way, but we are going to be able to move to that next level. There is something to be said about training too, right? And consistent training and little bits at a time, right? I just signed up for a Jeremy Minor thing, right? He's the NEPQ coach. He teaches sales, the new method of selling. I got his book sitting here. I'm a good salesman, right? I could be a great salesman, right? But I'm not an unstoppable salesman. I know that I have to do certain things to get to that next level. So if you're a business owner, if you're a technician, if you're a manager, if you're a CSR, right? Invest in yourself to go from good to great to unstoppable. You have to continue to pour into it. And sometimes it's scary. Dropping $900 is terrifying. But $900 is going to turn into millions, right? If I follow the process, if I trust the process, you have to pour into yourself to move to those next levels. Yeah, Saul, I knew I had you at sales, right? Like it's an art. And I challenge each one of you that's listening, that's an owner, a technician, a CSR, you're salespeople. I've said it before. You're all in sales. Whether you realize that or not, you're all in sales. And so I encourage each one of you to take some type of sales course, to read some type of sales book, right? Because you have to learn how to get better at selling, because everything we do in life is selling. Everything we do in life is selling. So take some time, invest in yourself, and move to that next level. What do you got as we're wrapping up, Miss Ward?
Hey, the only thing I got is let's go get it. That's where I'm at.
Oh
You're
yeah.
focused, laser.
Oh yeah. Hey, we got a special guest coming on Monday. I'm super excited about it. Mr. Andy Zielinski. He just left the HVAC sales world. I've known Andy for 9 years, 10 years, something like that. I've known Andy quite a while. So he just left the HVAC sales here in Illinois, local guy, and he's coming on to talk to us about sales process on Monday. Doug is taking a vacation or something. I don't know. He's ditching me on Monday, but I got Mr. Andy Z coming on with us, and I'm super excited to talk with him. His method of selling, his ideas on selling are phenomenal. I love the way that he structured the sales process for the home service professional. You want to talk about someone who's taken some training and who's leveled up his skill set. Andy had a 50% close rate in one of the toughest markets in Illinois. We are in Chicagoland. It is one of the toughest markets, and the guy had a 50% close rate, which is it's phenomenal for this area. So I'm excited for him to bring that. And then he's actually going to come on one more time with Doug and I. So we got a special guest 2 weeks in a row on Monday. So make sure you guys tune back in. If you're watching from Miss Ward's channel, Service Alliance Group, YouTube channel, go subscribe and come join us for that conversation on Monday. It's going to be phenomenal. I'm excited for you. So as Miss Ward said, it's Friday. Get out there, get after it, get that bag. Love your customers well, serve your customers well, and we'll see you next time on the Morning Grind, guys.